Want to know where to go to find the best in today's technology? Dick Smith Electronics at 69 Lockyer Avenue, Albany. Call in and select from the biggest range at the best prices. Choose from famous brands in phones, security, audio, communications, computers, and home electrical. The latest products, the widest range, and friendly and helpful advice. Dick Smith Electronics, 69 Lockyer Avenue, Albany. That's where you go.
Hey, and welcome to the channel. Indeed, Dick Smith's Electronics, an Australian company I'd never heard of. I saw this on eBay and couldn't resist. So yeah, this is the Dick Smith Data Spy Wrist Drive, a sort of proto smartwatch from around 2002, I think. And yeah, I just thought, I was so curious about this, I just had to buy it. It wasn't expensive, and there you got it. Dick Smith's Electronics. Apparently this was a big company in Australia in the 80s and the 90s into the early 2000s. So I guess it was kind of their equivalent of, like, we had PC Worlds and things like that in this country, where you get all your software and your scanners and your PCs and all sorts of other electronic stuff to go with it. So here we have the ultra cool USB watch that talks to your computer. We'll find out just how much it talks to the computer in just a second. I have to say, back in the day, I never come across such a thing. A fantastic stylish watch with a built-in USB wrist drive that can transfer files from most computers. Just like a USB drive, it's plug and play, and the USB cable and connector are cleverly stored in the watch band. How about that? 128 megabyte USB drive built into this thing. So that's, I believe, a significant amount of memory in 2002, 2003. So quite a cool thing to have. Don't know how practical it'll be. We'll find out about that in a minute or two. And there, as I was saying, it's quite a big company with a deep history in Australia, though I don't think they probably never really broke out of that area. I know that they were big and had a chain of shops in Australia and New Zealand, and I think they had some kind of partnerships going on with Tandy and people like that. And the pictures on the side of the box give us a clue about the kind of exciting things that we've got in store for us when we open it up. It's a shame there's a few tears on the surface of this box, but it's nice to have it boxed. And yeah, look at that, a USB thingy hanging out of an analog wristwatch. So let's get it open and take a look at what lurks inside. So it's quite a funky flip face box. We've got the manual, which is nice. Don't know if we'll need it or not. Then we've got some foam protection. We've got the watch, look at that. And a USB extension cable, which I imagine would be handy from a time when most of your USB connectors were on the back of your computer machine, and a disc with some goodies and software on it, presumably. I know from the eBay seller the battery is well dead on this thing, so I've got what I think are the correct size batteries. The lettering of the model number was slightly different from what it said in the instructions, but we'll find out if it's the right size in just a second. So yep, we've got a driver disc. Well, I guess it's driver disc. It does actually say this is driverless and plug and play on the box, but there's a disc of something here. So it says, use the guide in PDF form, drivers for Windows 95 and 98 SE, Mac. It's got Open Office on there. It's got Zone Alarm, whatever the hell that is. And yeah, we'll take a quick look at that in just a few minutes. I do like it when you do have all this stuff in the box. So we've got a USB extension cable. As I said, certainly the PC I'm going to be using this on has no USB ports on the front. We're going to be running it on Windows 98, though I think it says somewhere that it will work on Windows 9X and I think XP, I read somewhere, not quite sure. But we're going to be trying it on Windows 98. So we've got a user manual here, which, well, I probably wouldn't have bothered reading it back in the day. I'm probably not going to read it right now, just flicking through it. It's got some diagrams about changing the battery, which are probably going to be handy for what we're about to do. And it's got some diagrams of how the USB connector thingamajig comes out the side of it. And then I think the rest of the manual was pretty much just about software installations and that kind of thing. So it looks like this Zone Alarm or whatever it's called is a kind of partitioning tool for USB drives. The name kind of rings a bell. It sounds like the kind of thing you would have got free in a magazine disc back in the day. So we'll see what all of that's about when we load the disc. So having digested all of that information, or at least as much as I'm going to digest out of this manual, I just want to crack on. So let's get this little baby out. And first things first, the hand is not moving, and we're going to see if we can change the battery. So I've read the manual, and the manual says there are 4 screws on the back, and that should get you in. And we're going to see if I've got a screwdriver small enough to get them. You can see the 4 of them there on the corners of the back plate. So I did manage to find a driver that I think is small enough. I think it took a fair bit of pressure to crack them open, but they did start spinning and did get the back off. Of course, getting the back off this thing wasn't as straightforward as on a normal watch, because the first thing you come across is the flash drive chip, which seems to be from Samsung. So a decent memory chip at least. And then beneath it there's a chip from OTI, not a name I'm familiar with, but I imagine that's the controller chip. So this whole kind of disc that you see as soon as you go into the back is the USB storage section of the watch. So to remove this, I thought you just had to pop it out, but I didn't read the instructions properly. I did try. Luckily, I mean, everything's so small on here, there's nothing obvious. I couldn't get it off. I'm glad I didn't lose my patience and try and force it, which is the kind of thing I try and do, before I noticed that there is indeed a tiny little screw holding it in place. And once I realised that, it was just a case of getting the screwdriver out, popping the screw out, and suddenly a little bit of resistance to begin with. I think there's some kind of self-adhesive thing on the underside, but a little bit of fiddling. There was this bit of tape just making sure there's no shorts on these little connecting things, but eventually it did come off. I had to be a little bit careful with it because this thing is just kind of soldered on with a few wires, so just had to kind of hold it out of place. There's this kind of little plastic protective strip over the top of what I'm hoping is going to be the battery. Little white plastic retainers popping out all over the place. Any watch repairers watching this would probably be closing their eyes and shaking their heads. Yeah, so underneath that there's this little clip-on plate. I'm guessing it's a clip-on plate that presumably acts as the positive terminal on the back of the battery. I can see the battery just peeking out at the edge of it, so I'll need to try and pop that off. And I guess underneath this kind of plastic cover at the front is where the clock movement lives. A quality Japanese analog watch movement, I think it said on the box. And pop that out, and there it is. Tiny, teeny little battery. It looks about the right size as the ones I bought. So this was very fiddly. You're probably better off using proper watchmaker tweezers and magnifiers and all that kind of thing, but I don't have that. It's just my fudgy fat fingers. So initially I popped the battery in okay, and that retaining clip's what holds it in place. I put these little plastic things around the edge to sort of hold everything in place, and presumably to hold that board with the storage off the back of the watch mechanism. I did have to go through this a couple of times because, as you can see, I'm putting it back together, but I haven't put that red translucent protective strip back in between the storage part of the watch and the mechanism. And eventually, it has to be said, after some quite frustrating dicking around with some very small parts and screws and what have you, the watch to go back together, and we can put the back plate back on, and then we can get into the computery bit. And there you go, look at that. I can see that hand is ticking. The watch is alive, so if nothing else, it's going to tell the time. The face is a bit scratched up. I'll give that a clean with IPA in a minute. It's a weird face. It's kind of like a rubberized plastic, so just going to give it a good polish with some IPA. That does seem to be bringing it up a little bit better, so maybe they weren't real scratches, just scuffs and marks that seem to be coming out quite nicely. It's not the most expensive watch in the world quality wise, but it's quite a smart looking thing. It's got 128 megabyte USB written on the face, but yeah, curious and interesting little thing. And there you can see the watch face is relatively blemish free now. It's very reflective, that weird kind of gel face, but yeah, you can see the not a bad little watch for everyday use. Not something you go out to a fancy party with. So we can move on to the computer related parts, which is what we're really interested in, and look at that. A USB 2 connector stuck into your watch strap. It does actually tuck away quite nicely. It doesn't feel like bulky and stupid on your hand. You don't really notice that USB thing stuck in there at all, really, unless you look for it. And then suddenly I noticed this tiny little spring. Ugh, probably should have been inside the watch. I hope it's not important. There's always something, but I'm certainly not going to go back in trying to figure out where that tiny little thing came from. Chances of success are 0. So, yep, we're going to run this watch on this machine. I'm not going to go into much detail about this. This is one I picked up off Facebook Marketplace quite recently. Suffice to say, it's an early 2000s machine with Windows 98 SE installed on it. That's all we need to know. This machine will probably be the subject of next week's video, or the week after this goes out. So there we've got our extension plugged into the back. As I said, we need it. So you can see that if you pop the thing out the watch strap, it can then connect to that extender. So we're in, and we've got the CD. We'll pop that into the machine. You can hear the rather loud fans buzzing away in the background. And we've got a rather messy install of Windows 98, but it doesn't really matter for this because it's not like we're going to be worrying about driver performance or anything like that. We pop the CD in and see if it will autoplay, or what will it do? That's the question. And we wait, and we wait. Look at that. Dick Smith Electronics USB Data Spy 128 megabyte watch. So we've got a user manual, Windows 98 drivers, which it said we didn't need. Don't know what that is. Then we've got the storage software. But we'll start with the driver. Don't quite know. It says storage on this driver as well, even though there's another storage installer on there. We'll load this and see what happens. That seems to have installed, asking us to plug the watch in, and we'll do that in just a second. So yeah, if you try and click the other installer, it says that you have to uninstall the thing that we just installed. So that's not very well thought out, Dick Smith. And then we can view a PC Tech Guide, whatever that is. Welcome to the PC Technology Guide. So this looks kind of cool. It's like an idiot's guide to PCs, with just general information about graphics cards and drivers and cameras and just about everything that you could buy back in the day. And that's actually quite a funky little resource. It's got some pretty tedious stuff, but information about all the different chipsets. Information about graphics cards and different resolutions and different APIs and stuff. That's pretty cool. Guy even goes into some fairly deep stuff as well. So I guess it wasn't just aimed at absolute beginners. How to do a clean install of Windows 98. I know how to do that. I've had plenty of practice, but yeah, it's quite a cool little thing to have on the disk. A little bit of history. Anyway, it said plug the device in, so we'll take this 21st century smartwatch off and put this 20th century smartwatch on. Actually, probably, this is just in the 21st century. So yeah, I guess this thing's 23 years old now. 23 years old. See how far things have come when you compare it with your new funky smartwatch. So this is where I start to wonder about the thought that went behind this thing. So if you've got this on your wrist, you want to be using it on your wrist. If you've got to take it off, then you may as well have just bought a USB stick. I suppose the only possible caveat to that would be is you're less likely to lose your watch than you are to lose a USB stick. But that was a fiddle and a bit of a pain in the arse just to get the USB connector out. And then the next thing is trying to get the actual thing connected to your computer while it's on your wrist. This too was tedious, almost so bad that you would need to either take the watch off or you'd need somebody to come and help you. A little bit of thought on just some things to get your hands around to pull the little pair of lugs on the side of the thing so you could pull it on would have been good, but yeah, a bit of a pain. So yeah, not the most elegant thing in the world. Like, here I am shackled to my PC. I mean, Bluetooth was around in its infancy around this time. I think the first commercial devices were just about becoming available, like office headsets and stuff like that. And so now that I'm plugged in, it should just be, there it is, the device. It's got something new, letterheaded paper. It's not going to open because there's no software to. It just looks like a rich text document, unless it's something that was created on the Office suite that is on the disk. So I know they've got a drive. I tried to install this other thing, so we'll try and install this uStorage software. I don't know what Zone Alarm was. I advertised that on the box, but it doesn't seem to be there. It sounds like, I don't know, it sounds like antivirus or somewhere. I'm going to look that up in a second because it rings a bell. But yeah, we'll have a look at this uStorage thing. This looks like maybe it was renamed from Zone Alarm. I don't know. But we're being made to uninstall the driver that we uninstalled initially, and then we'll reinstall it and see what happens. Yeah, I just looked it up. Zone Alarm was indeed antivirus software, so I don't know whether there was another disk in here originally. I'm sure it said Zone Alarm on the box, but we've got uStorage software that it didn't say on the box. It did say it in the manual, so I think this is all the partitioning stuff I was reading about. So what does it feel like to wear this thing? Kind of like that. Not the most elegant thing in the world. So there was a utility to recover the disk, which did a lot of integrity checking and such on it. I ran it. Didn't seem to do anything noticeable that I could see, so I just guess it just checked for faults or anything like that. And by this time I really was getting sick of being shackled to the computer, so I decided to unplug myself and relieve myself of standing there with one arm stuck out while I try to sort the software out. So one quite cool thing you can see on the watch face is there's an activity light, a drive activity light. You can see it flickering away there as it does its integrity check. So that's quite cool. So you can see it flashing as it writes stuff and reads stuff. And just as I thought I was getting somewhere, installed the software, and we ran into a little bit of DLL hell, mfc42.dll, linked to a missing export, it said. So a bit of looking around, I finally found out that this was to do with having multiple copies on the machine at the same time. I guess it was getting confused about which one it should use, despite the fact that it itself had installed one to Windows System that we can see there, but there's another couple of versions for 3D Mark and Final Reality, so I cleared everything off, all of them, and then reinstalled it. So that was all a bit of a faff. I had to re-extract the file from Windows, then had to run through the installer again, which is a bit of a pain, and then it was a complete, and hopefully plug the watch in as instructed, and it didn't give us any errors this time, which is cool. It would normally have kicked off with that DLL error right about now, and then it's just spotted the watch which is plugged in, and that's just reloading the driver by the looks of it. I guess it reloads the driver on a new install, probably removes the driver when you uninstall, which we've just done, and then we can try and run this uStorage stuff. Already running. Then I figured it was in the sys tray. I can see it. So there we go. So it's a pretty basic utility by the looks of it. You can either run it as a public drive, which is just a drive. Don't know quite how that works. You can run it as a zip drive, so I guess that compresses it as you copy stuff into it, or as a USB hard disk drive, and you can boot from it, I believe, from looking at the instructions. Not going to try and do that now. and you can put some basic password protection on it, so you can partition it and have a public area, have a private area, or have it for a couple of separate people, each with their own login and password. Password hint, just in case you forget. Looks fairly basic. I'm not going to get into any of that right now. And so, as a last little test, I'm going to quickly knock up a file in Paint. I always create a smiley face in Paint if I need a file to do anything, so we'll knock up one of those, and then we can save it somewhere, give it a name, face, save that to the desktop, I think the easiest place to find it from, and then we can just close this down, open up our USB drive. You can see our little file there. It's definitely done and saved properly. There's the removable disk. If we open that up, drag it in, we're not going to get any crazy problems, and there it is. Simple as that. While you're shackled to your computer, or if you unplug it, and then you may as well have a separate USB drive, you can copy your files to your watch. So there you go. That's an interesting little curiosity to pick up off eBay. Quite a nice little thing to have. I like it. If I didn't have a better smartwatch with several gigabytes of storage on it, I probably might wear this just for fun every now and then, just to impress the people at work. Some of them will be interested being into old gear as well. But yeah, I'm glad I bought this. I think it was £18 or something like that, which is nice. It's got a battery in there, so it should last for years. I don't think it's waterproof or anything like that. So, you know, if I ever need to carry anything under 128 megabytes with me anywhere, I now know how to do it. So that's pretty much it for this video. It was a slightly different one. We'll get back to the old computers later when we look at that machine we've been using today in the next video. But in the meantime, that was it for this watch. I hope you enjoyed this little trip down memory lane, looking at a piece of curious old technology designed to be cutting edge and fantastic in the day. Maybe fell a little bit short. I know Dick Smith pretty much disappeared off the face of the earth not long after this. But there you go. I enjoyed messing around with it. I hope you enjoyed watching me mess around with it. And I hope you'll join me for the next video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.